The courtroom was packed, the air heavy with anticipation. Cameras hovered at the back, reporters scribbled feverishly, and the public gallery buzzed with whispers that seemed to amplify the tension. At the center of it all, Lucas Kessler sat rigidly in the defendant's chair, his hands clasped together, eyes flicking nervously to his father seated across the room. Minister Adrian Kessler had rarely looked so tense, his normally composed face shadowed with concern that was almost palpable. Judge Judy entered the room, her presence instantly commanding attention. She didn't acknowledge the cameras, she didn't need to. Her gaze swept across the courtroom, landing finally on Lucas, and the murmurs softened into a tense silence. "Court is now in session," she announced. Her tone left no room for hesitation, no room for pretense. The trial had begun. The prosecutor rose immediately, a tall, sharp-eyed woman named Marissa Cole, known for her relentless drive and meticulous preparation. She had prepared a case that would seem airtight to anyone who didn't look closely. She painted a vivid picture of Lucas Kessler as a young man who had allegedly taken advantage of a woman in a hotel room, suggesting intent, premeditation, and deceit. But the moment she finished her opening statement, Judge Judy leaned forward, her expression skeptical. "Ms. Cole," she said, "before we continue, let's make sure the evidence you claim exists is real, not manufactured. Otherwise, this courtroom will not be used for political theater." The entire room stiffened. The first warning had been issued. Lucas's defense attorney, a seasoned litigator named Charles Everett, rose calmly. He had prepared for weeks, meticulously analyzing every claim, every photograph, every video that had been leaked. "Your Honor," he began, "we intend to show that my client was the target of a deliberate setup orchestrated by a professional operative. The supposed victim in this case has a documented history of honey trap operations for political and financial gain." He paused, letting the words sink in. The public gallery shifted uncomfortably, some whispering, others staring wide-eyed. Judge Judy didn't flinch. She merely nodded, gesturing for him to continue. The first witness was called Seraphine Vale, the woman who had been at the center of the allegations. She entered the courtroom with a careful smile, confident in the story she had been coached to deliver. But as soon as she faced Judge Judy, her composure faltered slightly. Judy's eyes were sharp, assessing every micro-expression, every shift in weight, every flicker of hesitation. "Ms. Vale," Judy said, her voice cold yet measured, "you are here under oath. You will tell the truth, nothing more, nothing less. And if you misrepresent what happened, you will be held accountable." Seraphine's mouth twitched, but she nodded. Judy began the questioning with surgical precision. "Tell me what happened that night at the hotel," she demanded. Seraphine recounted a carefully rehearsed story, claiming Lucas had acted aggressively after a brief encounter in a hotel suite, detailing fabricated resistance and creating a sense of fear. She painted a picture of a young man out of control, an image that seemed plausible to anyone unfamiliar with the real events. But Judy noticed the inconsistencies immediately. The story was too linear, too rehearsed. There were gaps that didn't align with any logical sequence of events. Her gaze pierced through Seraphine's careful veneer. As the prosecutor tried to reinforce the narrative with video evidence, Judy stopped the playback. "This footage," she said, her tone sharp, "is it the complete unedited video from the hotel surveillance or selectively chosen clips? We will not allow manipulated media to dictate judgment." Marissa Cole hesitated, caught slightly off guard by Judy's insistence on authenticity. Everett smiled faintly from his chair, knowing that the first cracks were beginning to show. Then came the testimonies from the hotel staff, each carefully orchestrated to support Seraphine's claims. But again, Judge Judy asked pointed, detailed questions about timelines, entry and exit records, room service logs, and CCTV coverage from multiple angles. Slowly, the inconsistencies in the honey trap's carefully crafted story began to emerge. One security camera had been conveniently ignored, one staff member's recollection conflicted with another's, and Judy seized upon every discrepancy like a hawk on prey. The flashbacks began to play in Lucas's mind as he sat there, unable to speak but vividly remembering the night from his own perspective. He had gone to the hotel lounge expecting nothing more than a quiet evening, perhaps a conversation with someone he thought had shown genuine interest in him. The memories were sharp: Seraphine's soft voice, her laughter, the way she had guided him gently when he felt dizzy, the way she had leaned close under the pretense of concern. And then the confusion, the haze, the sudden accusation, and the panic that followed. Each memory struck like a punch, each moment a reminder of how meticulously he had been trapped. He recalled the subtle smell of the sedative, the brief blackout, and waking hours later to the chaos she had orchestrated. He had been humiliated, framed, and rendered powerless in minutes, a pawn in a much larger scheme. Judge Judy, observing the subtle tension and the flicker of genuine fear in Lucas's eyes, decided to shift tactics. "Ms. Vale," she said sharply, "let's discuss your professional history. Have you ever been involved in operations targeting influential figures? And if so, what methods do you employ to manipulate events?" The question hung in the room like a guillotine. Seraphine faltered, her eyes narrowing defensively. She claimed she was a social consultant and denied any illicit activities, but Judy was unconvinced. Her gaze was relentless, and Seraphine knew that every evasive answer would be scrutinized, dissected, and exposed. The courtroom tense, the prosecutor tried to regain control. "Your Honor, these are serious allegations. We are presenting evidence based on witness testimony and video documentation." Judy raised her hand. "Evidence that may have been curated to mislead this court is not evidence. I will not allow political manipulation to masquerade as truth." The room went silent. Even the gallery seemed to hold its breath. Lucas, for the first time in weeks, felt a flicker of hope. Then Everett rose again, seizing the moment. "Your Honor, if I may present new digital forensic analysis." He displayed a set of logs showing editing timestamps, metadata inconsistencies, and digital traces that suggested tampering. These files indicate that the videos provided by the plaintiff were altered in a manner consistent with professional deception. We also have communications from Ms. Vale's associates discussing the orchestration of this operation against my client. He paused. The murmurs in the courtroom grew louder. This was no longer a simple allegation. It was a meticulously documented attempt to frame an innocent young man. Judy leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Bring them in," she commanded. A digital forensic expert was called to testify. Each technical detail was broken down into plain language, carefully explained for the jury and the gallery. The expert demonstrated how timestamps had been manipulated, how footage had been selectively cropped, and how audio tracks had been altered to simulate aggression that never existed. The courtroom felt like it was teetering on a knife edge. Lucas's heart raced. Every revelation was a step closer to clearing his name. Seraphine's confidence began to crumble. She tried to interject, to assert control, but Judy's relentless questioning left no room for deflection. "Ms. Vale," she said coldly, "I want the truth, not the narrative you have been paid to present." "The truth." Seraphine swallowed hard, a flicker of panic in her eyes. The carefully constructed illusion of innocence was beginning to dissolve under the weight of facts, expert testimony, and Judge Judy's unwavering scrutiny. The flashbacks continued in Lucas's mind. He remembered the first messages, the initial interactions, and how nothing seemed unusual until the night at the hotel. Every small detail, insignificant at the time, now made sense: the subtle pressure, the timed distractions, the way she isolated him from potential witnesses. It had all been a calculated setup, and now, for the first time, the courtroom was starting to see it through the haze of staged emotion and fabricated evidence. Judge Judy shifted her focus to the motive. "Why target this young man?" she asked pointedly. "What purpose does this serve?" the prosecutor stammered, unable to provide a clear answer. Everett's voice rang calm and steady. "The motive is political leverage. By implicating the son of a prominent minister, the perpetrators aim to destabilize a key figure in valorous politics, creating media frenzy and public doubt. The manipulation was intended to extend beyond the individual, targeting the family and their political influence." The gallery murmured, the tension palpable. Judy's gaze swept across the courtroom, landing momentarily on Adrian Kessler. The minister's face remained stern, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of emotion: pride, relief, fear, and hope all intertwined. He had known his son was being set up but had lacked proof until now. The courtroom, under Judy's command, was beginning to unravel the carefully woven web of deceit. Seraphine attempted to regain composure. She tried to present alternate interpretations, claiming miscommunication and accidental misunderstandings. But every point she raised was met with pointed factual refutations. Judge Judy's strategy was clear: expose every inconsistency, question every claim, and ensure that the narrative of manipulation was fully revealed. Her questions were surgical, designed to reveal the fractures in the story without providing any avenue for further obfuscation. The testimony of a hotel employee was next. He confirmed seeing Seraphine alone in certain parts of the hotel, contradicting her claim that Lucas had been aggressive. Another employee corroborated logs indicating that room service had delivered drinks at times inconsistent with her timeline. Each testimony was a hammer blow to the credibility of the orchestrated story. Lucas sat, heart pounding, watching as the truth began to emerge in real time. Finally, Judy allowed Lucas to speak. His voice was hesitant at first, trembling slightly under the weight of the courtroom's attention. I never hurt her," he said, looking directly at Judge Judy. "I don't know why this is happening. I was confused, I was scared, and everything was twisted to make it look like I was guilty." His words, raw and unpolished, carried a weight that no rehearsed testimony could match. The room was silent, save for the scratching of pens and murmurs of acknowledgement from those present. Judge Judy leaned back, considering the moment carefully. "We will continue this case, but let it be clear, the evidence so far indicates deliberate manipulation. My focus is to ensure that justice is served, not that someone's reputation is destroyed for political gain." Her words were definitive, signaling a turning point in the trial. The case had begun to shift from a simple accusation to a complex web of deceit, with every participant now acutely aware that the truth would emerge regardless of prior machinations. As the day drew to a close, the courtroom remained tense, the public gallery buzzing with speculation. Lucas's family remained vigilant, Adrian Kessler's presence a pillar of silent support. Seraphine sat silently, her carefully constructed facade showing signs of strain. Judge Judy dismissed the court with her usual authority, leaving the chamber with the implicit understanding that the next session would delve deeper into the orchestration, motives, and the extent of the manipulation that had ensnared an innocent young man. The echoes of the first day lingered long after the gavel fell. Every participant knew the stakes had shifted. The honey trap, the sedative, the falsified evidence, all had been laid bare for the first time. And as the cameras captured the reactions of those present, one truth was undeniable: the battle for Lucas Kessler's innocence had only just begun. The next morning, the courtroom was even more crowded than the day before. The press had picked up on every hint of inconsistency from the previous session, and public interest had exploded. Lucas Kessler sat quietly, still tense but steadier than yesterday. His father, Adrian, maintained his composed facade, though every now and then his eyes flicked nervously toward the defense table, silently urging confidence. Judge Judy entered without preamble, her steps deliberate, her presence immediately imposing order. The murmurs ceased, the cameras stopped, and a palpable tension descended over the room. She glanced first at the prosecution, then at Lucas. "We are continuing the case of Kessler v. Vale," she said, her tone precise. "I expect the facts, the truth, and nothing but the truth. Anything less will be treated as obstruction." With that, she leaned back, eyes scanning Seraphine Vale, whose previous composure seemed to have thinned overnight. Everett rose immediately, motioning for the first piece of critical evidence. "Your Honor, we have obtained additional forensic material that establishes not only manipulation of video evidence but also a coordinated attempt to frame my client. The communications we recovered indicate a clear plan to fabricate interactions and coerce false testimony." He held up a tablet, displaying hundreds of messages, emails, and encrypted chats. The room watched silently as the proof unfolded, conversations between Seraphine and her employers detailing timing, behavioral prompts, and instructions on when and how to manipulate Lucas. Judge Judy's expression didn't shift, but her eyes sharpened. "Ms. Vale," she said, pointing toward the accused orchestrator, "explain these communications. Why does this evidence exist if you acted alone and without coordination?" Seraphine swallowed, trying to appear calm, but her voice trembled slightly. I was only assisting. I didn't intend to harm anyone," she said, but her words were vague, evasive. Judy's lips pressed into a firm line. "Assisting in what? Please clarify, or you risk perjury charges." Lucas felt a surge of relief as the facade began to crumble. The flashbacks in his mind replayed the hotel night, now illuminated by the knowledge that it had been planned with surgical precision. Each touch, each guiding hand, each confusing moment had been orchestrated, not spontaneous. He had been nothing but a pawn in a meticulously designed trap. For the first time, the humiliation he endured began to make sense. He wasn't guilty. He had never had the chance to act differently because every step was manipulated. The prosecutor, Marissa Cole, tried to regain control. "Your Honor, these are circumstantial interpretations. The defendant's testimony and the video evidence suggest an encounter." Judge Judy cut her off sharply. "Suggests evidence indicates orchestration, falsified documents, and selective editing. Circumstantial, hardly. The proof is direct, and if you continue to misrepresent the facts, I will intervene." The tension in the room tightened like a drawn bowstring. Cole's face betrayed frustration. She knew the case was shifting irrevocably. Next, Everett called a digital forensic expert to the stand. The expert meticulously walked the court through the findings. Timestamps in the video files had been manipulated, audio tracks edited, and metadata altered to fabricate a story of aggression. Every claim that Seraphine had made in her testimony collapsed under the weight of technical evidence. Judge Judy asked questions deliberately, breaking down each technicality into plain language so the jury, the gallery, and the public could understand. Her style was precise, unrelenting, and designed to illuminate the deception without leaving loopholes. The gallery was silent as the evidence mounted. Seraphine tried to interject, claiming interpretation or misunderstanding, but every attempt was swiftly shut down by Judy's incisive questioning. "Misunderstanding implies accidental error," she said coldly. "What we have here is deliberate fabrication." The room seemed to hold its breath, everyone sensing the turning tide. The flashbacks intensified in Lucas's mind, revealing even more. He remembered the subtle cues Seraphine used: the carefully timed sedation, the moments of false concern, the staged injuries, and even the orchestrated cries that had been audio recorded and sent to the press. Every memory was now evidence, every detail was a thread unraveling the lie. He realized how vulnerable he had been, how clever the manipulation, and how close he had come to ruin. And yet here in the courtroom, the manipulation was being stripped away, layer by layer. Judge Judy then turned to the heart of the matter: motive. Why target this young man? She asked pointedly, her gaze unflinching. Why construct an elaborate trap? Marissa Cole stammered, attempting to respond, but Everett cut in. The motive is clear. Lucas Kessler is the son of a powerful minister. By discrediting him, the orchestrators intended to create political destabilization, media frenzy, and public doubt. The attack was not personal, it was a calculated move against his family and political influence. The courtroom reacted audibly, whispers rippled through the gallery. The public was beginning to understand that this was no ordinary accusation, it was a political strategy executed with precision. Testimony from additional witnesses corroborated the defense's claims. Hotel staff confirmed that Seraphine was alone for extended periods, inconsistent with her claims. Security logs showed discrepancies between her reported actions and actual movements. Even room service schedules contradicted the supposed timeline of events. Each revelation was a hammer blow, systematically dismantling the honey trap. The tension shifted palpably toward Lucas, who sat rigid yet calmer, as the truth started emerging in full clarity. Judge Judy then called Lucas to testify. His voice was initially hesitant but strengthened with each word. "I never harmed her," he said, looking directly at the judge. "I didn't understand what was happening. I was confused, I was scared, and everything was twisted to make it look like I was guilty. I didn't do any of this." His raw honesty contrasted starkly with Seraphine's rehearsed and fabricated narrative. The courtroom seemed to lean in collectively, absorbing the sincerity in his words. For the first time, Lucas felt the weight begin to lift slightly from his shoulders. Judge Judy's interrogation of Seraphine reached its climax. "You were paid to manipulate, to create a false story, to ruin an innocent person, and yet you came here under oath to lie. Why?" Seraphine's defenses faltered. The careful smile faded, replaced by the faint sheen of fear. She tried to assert her innocence but could not escape the damning evidence arrayed against her. Every document, every timestamp, every witness corroborated the defense. The honey trap had been exposed. The courtroom was electric. Reporters scribbled notes furiously, live broadcasts interrupted programming across Veleria. Social media erupted with hashtags praising Judge Judy's relentless pursuit of truth. Public sentiment swung sharply in Lucas's favor as the story of his innocence became undeniable. Adrian Kessler sat silently, his expression a mix of relief, pride, and lingering concern for the ordeal his son endured. Everett summarized the case with precision. "Your Honor, we have demonstrated that the accused was the victim of an elaborate scheme. The videos and testimony presented by Ms. Vale have been shown to be manipulated, and her own communications confirm intent to fabricate evidence. My client, Lucas Kessler, is innocent of all charges." He gestured toward the judge. "We request immediate dismissal of all accusations." Judy listened attentively, absorbing every word, every nuance, weighing the evidence meticulously. Judge Judy leaned forward, her gaze sweeping across the courtroom one last time. "This court has reviewed all evidence, witness testimony, and forensic analysis. It is now clear that the defendant, Lucas Kessler, was targeted in a deliberate attempt to fabricate criminal behavior and manipulate public perception. The accusations presented were orchestrated by Seraphine Vale and her associates with intent to deceive, defame, and destabilize a family for political gain." Her words were precise, leaving no ambiguity. "The court finds Lucas Kessler innocent of all charges. Furthermore, this court recommends investigation into Ms. Vale and any associated parties for fraud, perjury, and conspiracy." The gavel struck. The sound echoed through the chamber like a definitive exclamation mark. The courtroom erupted. Lucas's relief was visible. He exhaled for the first time in weeks. Adrian Kessler's stoic expression broke into a faint smile as he stood to embrace his son. Seraphine Vale was restrained, visibly shaken, and the courtroom officers moved quickly to ensure no further chaos. Cameras captured every moment. The father and son reunited, the defeated operative, and the judge who had unraveled a web of deceit with relentless precision. In the aftermath, media coverage shifted immediately. Headlines celebrated Lucas's exoneration, highlighting the intricate honey trap that had been meticulously exposed. Analysts dissected the trial, praising Judge Judy's methodical approach, her insistence on evidence and truth, and her unwavering commitment to justice. Public sentiment swung decisively toward the Kesslers, cementing Lucas's innocence and exposing the danger of political manipulation. Even weeks later, the courtroom sessions were replayed endlessly. Citizens marveled at the precision of the forensic evidence, the courage of Lucas under immense pressure, and the unwavering determination of Judge Judy. The honey trap story became a case study in manipulation, deceit, and resilience, teaching lessons about vigilance, honesty, and the power of meticulous legal strategy. Lucas returned to his life quietly, carrying the weight of experience but buoyed by the knowledge that truth, in the end, had prevailed. The ordeal left scars, certainly, but also a lasting mark on Valoris. Politicians reconsidered their strategies, media outlets became more cautious with allegations, and Judge Judy's reputation as a fearless arbiter of justice grew even stronger. The honey trap had failed, and justice had won, not just for Lucas but as a statement to anyone who might attempt to wield deceit as a weapon. And in that courtroom, long after the gavel fell, the truth remained clear. No matter how carefully a trap is set, it cannot withstand the light of truth when measured with diligence, evidence, and an unwavering commitment to justice.